Hello guys, this is part 2 of the tractor brakes, these Yanmar tractor brakes. And why do we need a part 2? Because part 1, the brake didn't work. So what failed? The brake, it worked until it failed. And what failed? Well, there I was thinking, I'm going to be driving this thing, and I'm towing logs and trailers and all kinds of stuff. I should really stomp on this brake once like I'm in fear for my life. So I did. Put all my force into it. And I heard tink, came right out of there, a little crack. So I took it back apart. Let's see what we got. Well, there it is, right there. So that's the brake shoe, and there's the crack right there. Yeah, look at that. Now, why would it do that? Why would it do that? Well, okay, here's the original. There's the original. And the original is all steel. The original is all steel. So the first thing that I noticed is where it cracked. It's actually kind of thin right there. As far as webbing and material go, it's certainly not like that area. It's certainly got less material there. And then I looked at another set that I ordered. Look at those. See, those, the spring hole is way out there, way out here, see? That one, and the spring hole is kind of where it needs the most strength is the spring hole. That one, the spring hole, is way up there. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so that's the first thing that just kind of stuck in my mind. I'm just looking at that one. That one doesn't look all that robust. That one certainly has a little bit more material than that one. The next thing that I noticed was, look at the face. That's the face that's getting expanded, pushed out by this action right here. Now, this guy moves and pushes that face apart, see? Pushes those two faces apart, expands it out. Now, I had greased that. I put grease right there. Not so much grease that I'm going to ruin my brake pads, but enough grease that it's supposed to slip. But I also noticed that corner right there, and this is what happens when you start to try to throw other parts in something. You know, you find all these little tricky bits and you go, oh, look at that. Okay, the corner right there where my thumb is hitting, that was a hard, sharp corner. Kind of more like that corner. See that? Okay, well, that does kind of have the ability to point load and grab into that face. And that's what it looks like it did. It looks like that little cam action grabbed that face, pushed it out that direction instead of splaying apart, pushed it out that way, and just broke that end off. Tink. Okay, so what do we do about that? Well, first thing is I'm going to show you the part number of that right there. Okay, if you're trying to collect part numbers, remember on part 1, I said don't use this part number because I had to grind those shoes down. This one here, you'll see that's 110 by 25. I'm keeping that up there for a minute so that you can take those part numbers. If you have a Yanmar 1510, or go up and look at brake shoes for a Yanmar 1510, and it'll give you a list of tractors that use that same brake shoe. Because not all of them do. I think my 186D, and I've got a 155D and a 186D, and I've got this 1510, all from the same time, all the late 70s, early 80s, those tractors. I think this one was made at the same time that the 186, when I read, I said this thing here was light in the rear end because it was meant to be working in rice paddies. Basically the same tractor as the 186, except it was meant to work in rice paddies, so the back end was lighter. Funny enough, first time ever, I was going down a hill with this, and I had, of course, it's got those bar tires right there, going down a hill, and the back end broke loose. Started fishtailing down the hill with a load on the tow hitch right there, and sure enough, just barely made it to the bottom without jackknifing. And I said, never had that happen before. Well, different machine. Same era, same everything, slightly different use. But if you go and look at a Yanmar 1510 and look at all the brake shoes that also are listed for that same machine, then that part number right there should fit because that's a 110 by 25. Okay, so back to back to this whole conglomeration here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put one side, the one side that I have, I'm going to put the steel shoes back in because I've got one set of steel shoes, but I need another set. Now I'm going to try these shoes right here. The other thing I did was I went to this edge right here. Now see how that edge, see if I can get the camera to focus. See how that is kind of pretty sharp on that face. Well, that's the way this face was right here. So what I did was I filed, if you can get the camera to go. So I filed that edge round. Maybe it won't dig in as much. I'll try to put maybe a little more dab of grease on. Maybe that'll help. And I'm going to say that these shoes have a little more meat on the inside where it's supposed to be. I don't know about this side. Yeah, so if anything though, now the other thing I'm going to try to do is put this in such a way so that the side of the flat that rotates takes that corner and pushes it that way, and this corner and pushes it that way. I'll try to line up the shoe up or down or left or right so that I get that action. And then we'll see. So okay, so that's part 2. Didn't expect there to be a part 2. I just expected this all to just go together and laugh like, I'm so smart, I beat the system. But here I am, another day in the shop trying to get my brakes to work. Okay, that's it. That's the oh, I had one more thing for on part 1. I was talking about this bell right here. This bell is on, so that shaft right there is on, this bell is on that shaft. That shaft is attached through a gear to the drive wheel right here. Okay, so the drive wheel spins. This thing spins at probably like double speed or something. And these, a lot of people have these things and they eventually rust out. So the question was, well, how do you replace that for an economical way? And I was saying I could probably make one on the lathe. And my thought was, well, but the inside is probably going to be splined or something like that. What to do about that? Like how to get a spline? Like that's not easy to make if you're into machining. Even, I've got like a key broacher and stuff, but a spline's a whole different animal. And I kind of remember I had to pull all this apart on the 155 for changing wheel bearings and stuff. And I kind of remember that was a spline shaft. My thought was I would cut this center out. If it ever comes to it, cut this center out, make all of that out of one piece of steel right here. That would be pretty simple to do. Just put it on the lathe and then cut the center out of this one and weld that into the new piece. So I just throw that out there because I was sitting around thinking about that, like, what would you do for that? How would you get your how would you make that piece as that day could be coming? Okay, I think that's it for part 2. Let's hope that there isn't a part 3. If you don't see a part 3, that means that this all worked. Okay, good luck, guys. I hope somebody's saving some money out there.